This week on One Day Leader, we ask the question, should government regulate social media? Join us right here on SABC 1, Mzansi for sure. Sanmanani, Molweni, Dumelang, Goeienaand and good evening, Mzansi. Ngegama ngingupho wakashongwe umtimanzi ubambolo imakeza ngelBC emanti ahleti. Ngiyanamukela kuhlelo lwethu i-One Day Leader, the show that confronts pressing issues of the day through debate-driven challenges. But firstly, let me get to the information you've all been wanting to hear. How did you, the viewers, score our leaders in last week's episode? Let's take a look at the results.
This week's viewer scoreboard sees Leader 3, Kuhlegonke, leading the pack with 2,359 viewer votes. Wow! And Leader 5, Sponisile, as the last person on the list with 183 votes. Now this means that Leader 3 gets 1 point. Congratulations, Kuhlegonke! Now let's take a look at our series scoreboard. Leading the pack for the first time this season is Leader 3 with 14 points, followed closely by Leader 4 with 13 points. It's truly down to the wire.
Remember, you at home, your votes do count. Kukuletu, welcome your vision statement, please.
Ngiyabonga. Mzansi Afrika, aveni bahle. And you deserve a revolution in the quality of your leadership. As a rising leader of South Africa, I am determined to contribute to the creation of a disciplined leadership culture. Let's get to the business of the day today, of leading with integrity and discipline. If we can lead ourselves well, we can lead a nation even better. Without your support, I cannot make it in the show. Please continue to vote. The future is female. Thank you.
Leader 2, welcome your vision statement, please.
In 1995, I was born into poverty, but South Africa, you've never abandoned me. You took me to school by your hard-earned tax money. I am here today because of you. Don't stop what you started. Continue to vote for me, Leader number 2.
Thank you very much. Welcome, Leader 3, your vision statement, please.
I am Womanda, armored in hope and faith, marching towards the realization of the dreams of African women. Striving for South Africa, where young people are no longer bound by the chains of generational poverty and illiteracy. I see a nation that accomplishes indigenous prestige, and by that, I welcome you to the unchained generation.
Leader 4, good evening. Your vision statement, please.
Thank you very much. I believe in a South Africa where the means of production benefit the poorest of the poor. The property ownership is not in favor of the selected few. Indeed, a South Africa that sees no color, but it sees humanity. This is our generational mission. No one and nothing can stop us.
Good evening, Leader 5.
My grandmother tells me of a South Africa where umuntu was umuntu ngabantu, where it was kindness and not political affiliation that ruled the land. Wealth and success can conquer nothing if we have lost our humanity. It begins and ends with us. Mayibuye i-Afrika.
Good evening, Leader 6. Your vision statement, please.
Thank you, Pearl. I envision a leader that will empower a child from a rural area in a township to lead, give a nation access to the land and quality education for our economy to remain alive. South Africa, join me in chancing for change.
Before we move on, let's see how you can participate by voting for your favorite leader. To vote for Kukule, to SMS 1 to 32672. To vote for Pilasande, SMS Leader 2. For Kuhlegonke, SMS Leader 3. For Pekisisa, SMS Leader 4. For Sibonisile, SMS Leader 5. And for Zongezile, SMS Leader 6. Mzansi, keep on my phone and make sure that you vote for your favorite leader to keep them in the competition. It's time for us to introduce to you our guest judge. She is the recognizable face of SABC2's flagship breakfast show, Morning Live. She's a multiple award-winning TV broadcaster and a renowned leader in South Africa's media circuit. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Leanne Manus. Leanne, it's a great pleasure to have you on our show this evening. A quick question to you. Do you think South Africans can self-regulate in terms of the content they put out there on social media, or do we need the government to put in stricter laws and regulations?
Pearl, this is one of the most interesting topics I think that we could have chosen, and I'm actually glad that I've been asked to come here tonight to actually talk about this with you and be one of the judges on this panel. Because from past experience, I'm not sure that South Africans can regulate themselves, because we've gotten ourselves into big trouble from just putting things out there without thinking. But at the same time, there's a fine line between censorship and regulating. And I'm really excited to see what the panelists actually say and how they bridge that gap, because it's a very sensitive territory, but there have to be some rules and regulations when it comes to it. But what they are, I know what I feel, but I'm keen to hear what they think.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much. Of course, let's not forget, we also have our resident judges. They are Catherine Constantinides, an environmentalist, social justice activist, and executive director of Miss Earth South Africa, and Tebogo Ditshego, entrepreneur, public relations guru, and founder of Read a Book Essay. Let's give them a warm welcome. And now let's take a look at how today's task relates to this issue. Good day, leaders. Where's Gutlegonke?
She had to go to school to fix her stuff for the new semester, but she'll be coming back today.
Okay. Our theme this week is social media. Should social media be regulated? Your task this week is twofold. First, you will meet one of South Africa's most sought-after social media consultants, Shandukani Muraudzi. Secondly, you will meet with a member of a top political party in Parliament who'll be debating on your behalf. It's your responsibility once again to tutor them and to impart the knowledge and skills that you have learned. You've got a big week ahead of you, leaders.
The main question with regulating social media for me is, where do we start? Because you can regulate social media in South Africa, but you must understand that it's global. So it would have to come from the US itself, where Facebook, Twitter, Google, and all these guys are based. It's not enough for us to say we're going to regulate social media in South Africa.
How powerful is social media?
We had this social media push where you had your hashtag fees must fall, that we started seeing a huge rallying around students and understanding that this issue is bigger than one university, it's bigger than one small group of people, it affects so many of us.
So these companies, they've got like privacy rules, like if somebody attacks you, you can report them and all of that.
I think what we have right now is self-regulation. So Twitter decides what its privacy rules are. Facebook decides what its privacy rules are, and that therefore infiltrates into your Instagram and your WhatsApp because they own both of those. So I think what governments are calling for is a government or a federal level of regulation.
If you were to look at China, you'd note that they do have censored media, but most importantly, the country owns social media platforms, and so they can regulate that. How can that harm us as South Africans if we still have journalists who have a social responsibility?
So what happens with those countries and a lot of countries around the world where media is very locked down is that you find a lot of citizen journalists who then take it upon themselves to do things like have blogs and citizen journalism that they're doing under carpet because you have such a restrictive environment.
So thank you for your expert advice, and yeah, I think it's gonna help us in our debates a lot.
Well, thank you for coming, guys. This was fun.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ngiphinde nginamukele kuhlelo lwethu i-One Day Leader, South Africa's #1 show on grooming leadership talent to confront the challenges facing our modern day society. Today's topic is, should government regulate social media? Well, before the break, our leaders got insights into the positives as well as the negatives of regulating social media. In this last part of their task, they meet the political parties who will debate on their behalf.
You have been chosen to represent me, so you are going to be leader one for this debate. I know you're going to do an amazing job because you are already a communications expert. I know you've got experience in the private sector and in the public sector as well.
It's going to be
Looking forward
very
learning
interesting
from
to
you.
see if I have to debate against that which I believe in so strongly.
Yeah.
But I think we're looking forward to it, and I think we as the ANC, we're fully in support of One Day Leader and the work that you do.
Yeah.
I think it's imperative that we continue to build the next layer of leaders. In the ANC, we always speak about generational mix, in fact, generational takeover, looking at the powerhouses that you young women are today.
Yes,
so
thank you so much.
Definitely looking forward.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. It's been so great chatting to you.
Basically, we've got this topic that we're dealing with, which is the question of should social media be regulated. So now I chose DA, so and I'm hoping that you'll represent me. Do you think you're up for the task?
I'm up for the task.
Is it? All right, okay, cool. Regulate social media.
No, we've seen the regulation of social media in dictatorships. It's not something that we do in a democracy. It should be an open space where people are able to freely express themselves. Because once we start saying that we must regulate social media, we're now regulating the thought processes of people. We're now regulating free speech. We're now regulating freedom of association.
Sure, I know you're on fire, man.
And so the topic is the censorship of media. And so the show is highly competitive and you'll be contending with other political organizations.
So you want me to represent your views in the debate?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Because I'm aware that you're a political organization and you can't go on stage and speak of political discourse that you don't believe in.
I will debate in support of your argument because obviously as the EFF we're against the amendment to the Film and Publications Act that is seeking to bring more censorship in the media space and all of that. So we're located to social media and I'm happy to represent you in this regard.
Thank you very much and I'm very excited on stage.
It's my pleasure, Buhle Bonke.
Ngiyabonga.
Indlela esidebate ngayo lapha ayijwayelekile, ayifani nendlela ezinye. Shuthi umuntu unikwa 30 seconds ukuthi introduce a topic and then 1 minute ukuthi aphikisane nalo aqhudelana naye.
Okay.
Bese unikwa 30 seconds futhi ukuthi uyavala. And then nolo munye naye wenza kanjalo. La manje beniphikisana sokuthi ulinient. Umphosa phansi kwebhasi vele.
No, I think I know that works for me because well, Parliament is short time.
Ne, manje futhi mina angisile enhloko eluzayo.
Kai, now I'm not the loser.
You're welcome, sis, and thank you very much for choosing the United Democratic Movement. And Kwankwa to be specific. And yes, of course, I accept your request and your invitation to represent you.
All right, but I don't want to tell you what to say because then you're going to be trying to remember my points. I want you to stick to how you feel.
Even the general cannot tell me what to say. So I understand that. We'll just have to agree on the principle on how we're going to work together, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
The main question of the debate is, should we regulate social media in our country?
I think firstly there's a lot that goes in social media. Looking at the era we live in as young people, to say what role does the social media plays in our lives? What impact does it does to our life?
I trust a lot in you, and I think we're going to do very well because I like your kind of thinking and the way you express yourself and the way you deliver your points. I think you and I share a lot in common. Thank you very much.
Sure, let's do it.
Awesome. Thanks. Great.
Thank you to all the political party representatives for offering their time to debate on behalf of our leaders. Catherine, I must come to you. Your thoughts on that task, and how will you score our contestants?
Our leaders, I'm really impressed. You really briefed your leaders really well. Good luck to you, because these leaders are going to represent you and are going to have an impact on that final scoreboard. We are going to award you each 1 point for this task.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Coming up next, we get to our first round of debates. Be prepared, it's going to be hot.
I'd love to debate the Democratic Alliance, and the reason for that is that I think they flip-flop on a whole lot of issues.
Well, I'd like to debate with the African National Congress, because this is a party that we're ultimately working to remove.
Obviously the ANC, because these amendments were brought by them.
I would like to engage the ANC further on this matter.
The ruling party, which is the African National Congress.
I'm being deployed by the Deputy President and the Honorable MP, to come and stand for him.
So do you have an understanding what it is you need to do?
Yes, I have. We had a long chat,
Is it?
about this, so
Okay.
I'm well versed.
All right, then I have all my confidence in you. Win. Nah.
We will win.
Yes. Okay.
There's no other way.
Thank you so much.
It's a
Okay, you
pleasure.
can come this way.
Thank you.
Welcome back to One Day Leader. Thank you so much for staying with us. I am your host, Pearl Shongwe. Nina Makaya, you're welcome to join the conversation by visiting our Facebook page, One Day Leader SA, to share your comments on tonight's topic. Also, check out our Twitter page at One Day Leader and keep us trending with the hashtag OneDayLeader6. We're now ready to meet our guest debaters. Now, as we said before, the leaders today paired up with leading political parties in our country. Let's give a warm welcome to Kusela Diko of the ANC, standing in for Kukumanyati. Standing in for leader number 2, Pila Sande, is Mabine Siabi of the DA. Standing in for leader 3, Gushegonke, is Mandisa Mashego of the EFF. Economic freedom! Standing in for leader number 4, Ubegi Sisa, is Mkhulego Hlengwa of the IFP. Behind the podium for leader number 5, Sibonisile, is Yongama Zikebe of the UDM. And lastly, standing in for leader number 6, Zongezile, is Sabelo Sikutu of the NFP. Our debate topic for today is, should government regulate social media? Before we start with our first debate, let's take a look at the rules of engagement.
These are the rules for the One Day Leader debate. You have 30 seconds to state your vision statement, 60 seconds for the opponent to challenge, and 30 seconds to conclude your debate.
Our first debate is between Mabine Siabi of the DA and Yongama Zikebe of the UDM. So leader 2, we'll start with you. You've got 30 seconds.
Well, as I've previously stated already, that we have regulation space or legislative space that already states how we deal with discrimination, how we deal with incitement. So what we need to do is empower the institutions that are around that form of legislation to actually apply this. I mean, we've had conversations with the IEC, for example, when we talk about fake news and fake Twitter accounts, where political parties use social media to influence an election by using fake news and so on. And the IEC have said that it's their duty, in fact, to be able to say that they formulate regulation around that space. Now to say, give a government
Time
institution...
Up. Thank you very much. Leader 2, you now have 60 seconds to engage.
we regulate social media, especially the companies that are there. Otherwise, if we leave it to everybody else to regulate themselves, then it's not going to work, because people are irresponsible, as you know. If you're telling us that there is a right, then the right has a responsibility. And if your right then trumps upon somebody else's right,
feel free to interject,
then
Leader Two.
that right, then you should not have that
But
right as well.
We've got the media itself, which is able to self-regulate through sign-up.
But remember that
and
we're
as well as
talking
with the
about
press
social media at
ombudsman.
this point in time, to saying that it is not just the mainstream media, but it is social media that needs to be regulated. In a way, how then do we as people use social media? How then are we responsible with social media? Look at human trafficking.
We've got existing laws that already deal with those things. Why do we now want to add an extra layer
Remember
of
that.
legislation
Remember
won't
that.
be
Remember that.
implemented by the efficient
This company's interest is not public interest. All right, it is profit-based. So what we need now, we need.
Time's up. Leader Two, you have the remaining 30 seconds to close off your argument.
Well, ultimately, if we are going to subscribe to the Constitution, which allows us freedom of expression and freedom of association and freedom of speech, then we must follow that Constitution. The Constitution further places limitations when it comes to discrimination, when it comes to racism, when it comes to incitement. The institutions like the Human Rights Commission, which regulate that kind of space and police that kind of space. So let's empower those institutions to be able to do their job. In the instance of political parties, let's empower the IEC to be able to...
Thank you very much. Your time is up. All right, the tables are now turned. Leader 5, you have the first 30 seconds.
All right, we can agree that social media has is a platform that has decentralized communication, information, and all of that. But however, it has created or enabled hate speech. It has enabled racial attacks. It has enabled terror agenda. Look at the U.S. Debacle between U.S. and Russia, where national security was, it was a problem. Now here in South Africa, we're looking at social well-being.
Time's up. You have 60 seconds to engage.
Well, I don't think it's a case of social media enabling racism and discrimination. Those things have already existed.
When Penny Sparrow went on Facebook to say that in the beaches of Durban, there were people looking like monkeys and having black people there, that is race.
Yes,
and that is enabled by social media.
Use the Human Rights Commission to enable to police that and be able to regulate that, and hence that matter ended up in court.
So if you're saying human rights, Human Rights Commission is the one that has to regulate that, then you agree with me that it needs to be regulated. However, how then do we
need
need
legislation around it, because the mechanism's already there. We're not going to add another layer of legislation so that it makes you happy. Let's use the legislation that exists so that we can push forward and we can eliminate things like racism.
How then do you propose that we use the legislations that are already existing, because they failed us? Look at what has happened.
They haven't failed. The implementation thereof have failed.
Look at the fake news that went around during the Zuma exit.
Thank you, Leader. Time is up. Leader 5, you have the remaining 30 seconds to close your case.
If then we regulate, we have little consequences when it comes to personal well-being, and we are making sure that national security is intact. It is problematic when we have ISIS recruiting our young people in South Africa going overseas, and we do not know, and to catch them at the airport. That is problematic, and we have a problem in South Africa of race. If then these things are not regulated, then we are not going to solve the issue of race. Everybody can go into social media and write whatever that they want to write, and then it tramples upon somebody else.
Time's
There
up.
is a problem.
Judges, I'll come to you. There was quite an interesting debate there. A lot of things being thrown into that debate. Quite interesting and eye-opening. Your thoughts on that first round?
Well, firstly, I think when you're debating, listening is of paramount importance. And I think that's what you have both displayed. You listened to each other, you came with counter arguments. In this instance, I think that in as much as you may be correct, Yongama, that social media should be regulated, but we were looking more if you could go into detail as to how it would be regulated. And Mabine did hit that on the head, where he spoke about empowering the existing institutions in order for us to use them to put effect to some of our laws. And so I think that in that instance, he was also able to answer all of your questions. When you raised Penny Sparrow, he mentioned the Human Rights Commission. He could have even mentioned with some of the other cases where they were taken to the Equality Court. And so perhaps you could have asked them if they have the capacity to deal with it and then make it a bit impractical. But that was what was missing basically in your argument. So as the judges, we've decided that Mabine is going to take this one.
All right.
National Youth Development Agency is an agency of government that is tasked with all youth development work in the country. We have an implementing responsibility. We must also be able to give a clear direction on youth development across sectors. We must also monitor and evaluate youth development. Our programs are really trying to focus into job creation and employment and creating job opportunities for young people. We are also trying to focus young people into skills and education, skills and development.
One Day Leader Season 6 Paul Shongwe. That was a message from the NYDA, which is dedicated to playing a role in nurturing and improving the livelihoods of our youth. Today we have a special round of debates where our leaders are being represented by leading political parties. Konala Mzansi. Our debate topic for today is, should government regulate the use of social media? For you at home, you're welcome to join the conversation by visiting our Facebook page, One Day Leader SA, to share your views on the topic. Also check out our Twitter page, that's at One Day Leader and hashtag One Day Leader 6. We're now going to move on to our next round of debates. This next debate is between Sabelo Sigutu from the NFP and Mkhuleko Hlengwa from the IFP. Ngikhuluma ngendaba zama breakaway parties. Leader 6, your 30 seconds starts now.
Firstly, people perish because of the lack of knowledge. Therefore, as National Freedom Party, we do not support the regulation of the social media space. Basically, it is the platform that is used in the 21st century to ensure that people express their views and ideas in the space. Therefore, we believe that it promotes the Section 15 and Section 16 of our Constitution, the right and freedom of expression, the freedom of media and press. Therefore, we believe that when the space is regulated, our people will not have enough...
Time is up. You have 60 seconds to engage.
In agreeing with you that we should not be venturing into the space of regulation, we must be also honest as a society and be pragmatic. The fact that children are exposed to the kind of realities that they are on social media presents a problem. So we must make it a point that we strengthen the work of ICASA, the Films and Publications Board. So we cannot wholeheartedly reject regulation because at the heart of it, we've got vulnerable children, escalation in human trafficking, misinformation which is available out there, and the corrective measures in place happen after the disaster has happened.
I get your point, and I well agree that there's a need for education, teaching our people to say when you subscribe to the terms and conditions, when using the social space, what is it that you are subscribing to? On which grounds that you are subscribing to. So it simply means that we need to have a room whereby we even teach people further.
But the reality is that social media is fluid space. It's on the moment. It happens.
Time's up, leaders. Leader 6, you have the remaining 30 seconds.
I believe that the interest of the people of this country must be heard. For the fact that there are 28.6 million users of the internet, it shows that people have a particular interest in it. For the fact that we have the campaigns like Data Must Fall, Zuma Must Fall, it shows that people have a particular interest in using the space. So basically, we need to allow people to express what they believe in, what they think it's right for them. Because
time's up, Leader 6. The tables are turned. Leader 4, you can present your case.
Bottom line is that regulation in one form or the other must happen. The reality is that checks and balances must be put in place because the most vulnerable of our people will find themselves bearing the brutal brunt of the atrocities which are happening on social media. We, of course, cannot clamp down on the right of expression, on the right to say what you want to say, but all rights come with responsibilities, and that responsibility rests with the state, it rests in the home, it rests with society. If at home I'm able to regulate my DSTV, I must be able to...
Time's up. Your 60 seconds starts now.
If we agree that Penny Sparrows was got charged from what she did on the social space, what more do we regulate? Because you are saying that we regulate again.
No, of
what
course,
more? Are we not creating duplication of
Penny Sparrow
regulation?
was charged. But the bottom line is we need to be able to draw parameters of regulation.
Which
what do we
parameters
do to
specifically?
children who find themselves at the receiving end of human trafficking? You've got children being taken from KwaZulu-Natal to Gauteng as it stands now because of fake adverts, and they told they want to come and play soccer. Where are the consequences? How do you manage that? Because
as a matter of fact, we must teach our own people who are subscribing to the
teaching them is regulation. That's
enough.
a form of regulation. The moment you vent into a space of teaching, you are regulating because you're raising consciousness. But you cannot have an open-ended reality to say, do as you please. Our regulation must be within the confines
what about
of
the
what
freedom
works
of
for the
expression?
people.
Where
That
will
is
they
exactly freedom of expression.
Time is up. Leader 4. 30 seconds.
Look, Evelyn Hall is very clear. She says, I disapprove of what you have to say and I'll defend to death your right to say it. Having said that, all rights come with responsibilities. The measures that the state is putting in place now are all wrong, amending the Film and Publications Board Act. It's all wrong. But the reality is some regulation must happen. Strengthen existing institutions of regulation. But we cannot possibly have a situation whereby we let children in particular, I've got a 6-year-old son, I've got a duty to support any intervention which protects him.
Time is up. Leanne, I'd like to come to you to get your thoughts on that debate.
You would do that. That was a tough one. That was a very, very tough one. I was listening to both of you, and it's a difficult one to win a debate when you're both on the same side. So it's obviously the ones that offer the better solutions. Sometimes I felt that Mkoleko, you were living in a little bit of an ideal world because, as you mentioned, it is very fluid. When you're in a situation where you're angry and you want to respond on social media, you decide there and then what you're going to say. And I don't know, you take it from that moment to decide what you're going to do. Sabelo, for you, I think for some reason you were offering a little bit more than what Mkoleko was giving us. I think maybe you focused more as well on the education, on the legislation, on where we were coming from. Both of you agreeing that social media shouldn't be regulated, but I think maybe just by literally a pin, you took this one. Well done. Well done.
All right, Deborah, we'll come to you for the verdict. We've heard what Leanne has to say. What are your thoughts?
Well, it was very tight and you both did exceptionally well, but the debate is taken by Sabel.
All right. Our next and final debate, which is between Kusela Diko of the ANC and Mandisa Mashego of the EFF. All right, Leader 1, I'll start with you. Your 30 seconds starts now.
Thank you very much. Well, the ANC and the EFF agree on a lot of things, and I'm sure we'll agree on this one. The debate whether to regulate social media or not is moot. Print media is regulated, broadcast media is regulated, the new press code introduces regulation for online media. Now, regulation is not about gagging. Regulation is about ensuring that you define the rules of the game and you ensure that those who break them are brought to book. We can do this, for example, in a quasi-statutory body like the BCCSA, we can do it, like in the Press Council, or we can go for any other mechanism that's...
Time's up, Leader 1. You have 60 seconds to engage.
And I think the point that we're trying to make is that at the end of the day, you cannot allow
Kusela, if I could
Twitter.
stop you because you've already had 30 seconds to speak, is that what you are proposing in terms of the ANC's amendments to the Public and the Film and Publication Amendment Act is really tantamount to censorship. And you would know,
I don't
coming
think you
from
understand the purpose of the FPB Act.
that censorship
it is going
can never
to
be right, so we
protect
can agree to
people from child pornography. It is going to protect us from hate speech.
You already have the
it is
Sexual
the
Offences
content
Act to govern children.
No, it
matters
is the
related to
content of the
pornography
challenges
and
that we're
child
facing.
pornography.
You don't go to a cinema and it's free for all, bulas book, as they say in Xhosa. You have classification. Now, what we are seeking to do with the FPB is to ensure that the content that is put on
reality
social
is that
media
you
is
can't really
classified
practically
so that people
classify
can
what
make
goes on
up their
social
mind.
media, Kuseng.
No, but that is the problem.
Very
You see, that is the
difficult, if not
problem.
impossible
You
to
cannot say that
classify
we must
content
use
on social
that
media.
which
There's
has
live
failed.
streaming. How do
That
you
which has
classify?
failed
When
and
are you going to have the
continue
time
to say social
classify
media is
a
correct?
live
It is not
streaming
correct.
piece
It is not
of
correct.
AV?
We must be able.
Time is up, leaders. Leader 1, you have the remaining 30 seconds to close off your points.
Thank you. Is our nation's motto, and it means diverse people unite. Section 16 of the Constitution says that we have freedom of speech, but each and every single responsibility, each and every single right that we have a responsibility. And one of the roles that government must play, and communities in general, is to ensure that we protect those. We must protect the vulnerable who do not have access to the Human Rights Commission. We must ensure that already we have defined the parameters when people participate on social media. So we believe that we must continue to discuss this and not gag.
Leader 3, you now have 30 seconds.
The reality is that it's impossible to regulate, or rather censor, which is what the ANC wants to do, social media. What is required are all the things that the African National Congress has failed to do. We need to educate young people. There's curriculum at primary school level, secondary school level, and tertiary that can be introduced to teach and train our young people how to defend and protect themselves. The recent example of Uyanda Mbulu, whose rights were violated on social media by lies being spread about her, is a typical example. The problem, however, is that, again, the ANC has made...
You have 60 seconds, leaders.
I think the mistake that the EFF makes is that you think that just by teaching people everything will go right. We were all taught, for example, in South Africa not to hate. Do we still not have people today who continue to spew racist bile on social media? Now you're saying let's leave it as a free-for-all approach because we've got the Human Rights Commission, because we have taught our kids everything will go fine, and that is what we're saying no to. Every single platform that exists, we have already regulated so that people are protected in those spaces. Now we're not going to gag anybody. What we're going to do is we're going to define those parameters, and there's already a precedence for this. So whether it's jurisprudence and everything, it's moving in the way that says online and social media must be regulated in order to protect the citizenry. We would not have Donald Trump, for example, in the White House today if we had made sure that the rules of the game are very clear for everybody to be able to participate. So we don't agree.
EFF, you're letting her have a monologue.
We don't think that the rules...
I thought the 60 seconds is not debated, so maybe we should start afresh. I thought I would have my own 60 seconds. No, I did.
Unfortunately, then your leader did not brief you correctly. We will continue. Your 60 seconds is over. You now have 30 seconds to wrap up your viewpoint.
The reality is that what the ANC wants to do is to censor social media. And not only is it unnecessary, it's practically impossible. What the ANC needs to focus on is in strengthening access to justice, is strengthening the police stations, strengthening the courts, and most of all, making justice free to poor people. Because if someone's rights are violated in social media, they have a right to open a police case. There are already laws in place to protect us. There are already enough laws in place to deal with the issue of child pornography and all abuses against children. But our people, in the most instances, don't even know.
I certainly am glad that I'm not a judge. That was a close one, I'm presuming. Tebogo, your comments, and have you guys decided on a winner on this debate?
We have made a decision. I think, Kusela, you made a very important point about this not being about censorship or gagging, but more about determining the rules of engagement. What we were looking for in that instance was if you could determine what are the rules of engagement that could work. You did speak about the press council, but it could be necessary but not sufficient. In terms of the debate from Mandisa, you had a lot of very strong points and counter-arguments where you spoke about the Sexual Offences Act, you spoke about the importance of educating young people. You almost lost it when you didn't engage at the 60 seconds. So we came very close to awarding both of your points. But when you spoke about providing more access to justice, that is where it tilted into your favor, and therefore this debate goes to Mandisa.
All right. A big thank you to our guest debaters. That was the last round of debates. Now for you at home, the voting lines are officially open. Ngakho-ke votela umholi omthanda kakhulu ngo-SMS igama elithi leader nenamba yabo to 32672. Your votes will be revealed at the top of next week's episode. Well done to our guest debaters. Masibuye Dolo, we find out how our studio audience vote for their favorite. Well, before the ad break, our studio audience had an opportunity to vote for their favorite, and I do have the results with me. Which guest debater displayed the best knowledge? Leader 2, congratulations to you. You were the favorite. Thank you very much to our studio audience for voting this evening. Now, before we go, we're going to take a look at the scoreboard, and then we'll give our guest debaters an opportunity to speak to you, South Africa.
Leading the pack by end of this episode is Leader 3, Gutegonke, with 16 points, followed closely by Leader 4, Begisisa, with 14 points. Will they lead us to the end of the season, or will things change? Stay tuned.
Okay, leaders, South Africa is listening as we go into next year's general elections. You have about 20 to 30 seconds to sell yourself and sell your ideals. I'll start with you, Leader 1.
Thank you very much. This year we're celebrating 100 years of Nelson Mandela and Mama Albertina Sisulu. These are leaders who stood for ethical and disciplined leadership, like Gugu, the contestant I represent. And we're calling on all young people to play your part to ensure that we take forward these ideals. You must be part of the solution. President Ramaphosa says we must be able to call on you. Siti Tumamina, you want to be there when we realize free education. You want to be there when we ensure that we expropriate the land without compensation. You want to be there when we ensure that all young South Africans have access to education. So
thank you very much, Leader 1. Leader 2, what is your message?
2019 presents an opportunity, especially for young people, to build the kind of country that they want. And that begins by voting for total change. And as a Democratic Alliance, we want to ensure that the work that we've done, where we already govern, we're able to spread that to the rest of the country. We're able to build houses. We're able to ensure that we're able to build schools, to ensure that our mothers and sisters are safe on the streets as well as in their homes. We want to build an economy that ensures that especially young people who leave university and drop out of secondary education are able to find a place and positively contribute to the communities and build a country that we all love. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Lady in red, it's your turn.
South Africa needs a political party that is going to confront all the harsh realities. The Economic Freedom Fighters is that party. Over 80% of the people who registered to vote are fresh, like brand new registrations, were young people. And we believe we brought those young people to the polling stations. We are not here to vote for Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela has given us the right to vote, which was political freedom. That's it. To live day to day, we need economic empowerment. We brought free quality education. Now we need to decolonize that free quality education. We brought land expropriation without compensation for equal redistribution, because 80% of our population can no longer sustainably live in the poverty and squalor they live in. They can no longer be subjected to the cruel evictions. We are no longer in the game of playing politics of comfort and making each other happy. We are in the game of taking black people forward unashamedly and fearlessly. Vote EFF in 2019.
Leader 4, have your say.
On behalf of the IFP, we would first of all want to thank One Day Leader for providing an opportunity to create new leaders for South Africa. And it is a time now to ensure that young people occupy the space. The message is that things need to change. The message is that ideologies of those in power have not worked. The IFP is providing pragmatic solutions to pragmatic problems. And the issue of the day is that for so long as unemployment is high, for so long as poverty is a reality, for so long as the poorest of the poor continue to live in in conditions of poverty. For so long as those that were previously disadvantaged are presently disadvantaged, then those in power have failed. And we need to change that in 2019. And finally, we must not be duped by people who maintained the status quo of our suffering, the status quo of corruption, and to think now that they have changed. It is a different choir, but the hymn sheet is the same. So young South Africans, go out there and find an alternative. And in the IFP, you will find it, because we're home for all, everywhere, all the time, today, tomorrow, and well into the future.
Thank you very much, Leader 4. Leader 5, it's your turn.
The United Democratic Movement has been, since its inception, fighting corruption from 1997 up until date. And a lot has been achieved in South Africa. And we continue the fight for integrity, for dignity and prosperity for all, and clean governance, because all these aspirations that have just been said here, they can only be a reality if we fight corruption and we have clean governance. Vote UDM.
Thank you very much, Leader 5. Last but not least, Leader 6, you have the platform.
Siyabonga, we thank you. We thank you for listening to the call to register to vote. As National Freedom Party, we believe that as young people, we have a chance and a platform now to change and readdress the past imbalance. That means we must vote for change, and that change is determined by us going there to ensure that we make a vote that will change the whole system, the whole manipulation that is going there, the whole cadre deployment that is going there, the whole corruption that is taking place. We, as the National Freedom Party, we are saying it is not us who give mandate to the people, but we want to listen to your call. What's the mandate that you want to give us? Let's hold hands and go make change in our local communities.
Thank you very much, Leader 6. And parting words from yourself, Leah.
What I have to say about this is that online companies, social media companies, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, Facebook, they're in it for the money. But what they're doing is they are preying on us. They're preying on us for their money. That's all it is. It is fake news. There are Twitter bots out there. There's anonymous users. There's foreign funding that is causing chaos in politics in countries. There's negative interests that are wreaking havoc in political echelons that we don't even know about. And at the bottom line, there is hatred that is being spewed amongst South Africans that shouldn't be there, from people that actually don't even know that this is being put into their minds. We've got to be careful, and something needs to be done about it, and we leave it to you, the leaders of South Africa, to come up with that solution. Whatever it may be, we hope you do it right, because it is the future, the generation that is watching tonight, that are the ones that are going to make the right decisions when it comes to what is right and what is wrong as to what is posted on social media. And we leave it in your hands, and we thank you for being with us.
Thanks to everyone who joined us today, our candidates, our judges, our audience, our guest debaters, and of course, you at home, Bugela One Day Leader. To you, Leanne, thank you so much for availing the time to join us on this show. It was absolutely lit to have you on One Day Leader. Thank you. Join us again next week for yet another exciting episode of One Day Leader. Our closing words for today are by the late Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela, who said, "Live life as though nobody is watching and express yourself as though everyone is listening." From myself, Upel Shongwe, Umtimanze, Ubambo Lunyi Mageza NLBC and the rest of the One Day Leader team, lishonile nini bagalazidze.